Media Ethics Week 10 Reflection. So hopping right in, we kind of talked about in our last reflection a lot about censorship and how to defend democracy and really just censorship in the digital age, how it has so many different forms that can be exercised in the media today. And something that I always find interesting is depending on where that media platform is geographically, there are different rules and regulations and just a different standard for media ethics depending on what the government sees fit, and how much control media actually has, like the people in those media spaces. Most of the time it is the government having a little bit more say than the people controlling media in newsrooms or broadcast services, things like that. So getting into this week, I'm gonna start with Case 5, journalism in the age of ChatGPT. We talk a lot about ChatGPT and what that has done for the media in today's age. We're really living in the digital age, so everything has a place in this like technical market. AI and ChatGPT is a really big focus right now because it's always looked at as, can this do a human's job better? And kind of getting into Case 5, in journalism, a profession that really does excel information gathering and writing done by humans, it has been concerned when a tool like AI and ChatGPT come into the mix, especially when they make their way into newsrooms. I think the biggest question at hand, and this is kind of one talked about in the chapter of the textbook, is whether ChatGPT is going to deepen the distrust in news, and can it replace human writing? ChatGPT and AI is something completely new to this day and age, and everything before was really produced and constructed by humans, and you really can tell a difference if something is done by a person versus a platform and a system like AI, which is artificial intelligence, of course. Something that was found in the textbook is John V. Pavlik, a professor from Rutgers. He co-authored an essay with ChatGPT, and he asked an AI-powered natural language processing platform this series of questions about journalism and generative AI's impact on the journalism profession and overall education. He concluded that the potential for AI to generate content that is pertinent to the journalism and media domain is apparent and of potentially high quality written expression. This is kind of an interesting thing to look at because it really is venturing into, can a tool, an artificial intelligence tool, do a human's job better than themselves, but also how can we differentiate whether a human has written something versus artificial intelligence, especially when producing media that is going to be spread to masses of people. So these AI-powered chatbots are presenting a slew of new pressures to journalists and definitely in newsrooms all over. It is also putting more of a burden on journalists to have to ask, themselves if it's right or wrong to use these platforms, and to do kind of a moment of self-reflection and kind of looking at the ethical side of it. Is this allowed in newsrooms and media? Are AI tools encouraged to be used? Are journalists and other, professionals in the media going to be obligated to become at least familiar with this technology? And many media companies and news services have taken actions to respond to the technology. I think this also brings into the conversation, not wanting to be left behind. If media is moving this way, then a majority of journalists and other professionals are going to want to move with it, so there isn't a delayed moment that you're not one with the times. And I think we've seen that as time has gone on and time has progressed. Before it was ChatGPT, this might have been ages ago, but email was something that people had to really get used to and understand how to work. Facebook was one of the first large scale social media platforms. There were things that seem like almost nothing today that were very earth-shattering back then when they were first being introduced. But I think artificial intelligence is just a little bit more complicated than those things of the past. This was Chapter 9, Epilogue, Ethics in the 21st Century by Kidder, 1995. Basically, they kind of talk about the rules to principles, and Kidder really emphasizes a large importance of having principle-based ethics and rule following those ethics, and how ethical reasoning is really all about having shared human values and having them based on a set of foundations that I think to many and most is just being ethical and staying true to the journalism and to sharing large chunks of news and information with masses of people, making sure that has honesty and there's respect and empathy and a type of I guess you could say loyalty and community involved with this set of ethics. This was also said in the article that ethical cultures and ethical education was a really big thing, and ethics should be viewed as this collective responsibility. It's not just something that is one to ourselves, and how if the world had ethical reasoning, and if it was taught as more of like a just everyday skill, literacy would be higher. So I think these are all really great things to think about and point out, and the textbook and these articles really focus on that. But I do think some of these things are just basic life skills and necessities, and it doesn't really just have to do with media and newsrooms. This could really be beneficial and useful in everyday life, but also any profession. So thank you so much for watching my reflection for week 10, and I will see you in the next one.